sponsored by Brighton Recovery Center. Today we are doing a special episode for National Rally for Recovery here at Recovery Day, hosted by USARA here at the Gallivan Plaza in Salt Lake City, Utah. There's a lot of excitement today celebrating the local recovery community. Today's episode will be a compilation of our own recovery community here in Salt Lake, people's personal stories, so enjoy.
My name's Ryan Rostenberg, and I'm an addict.
Awesome. Hi, Ryan. Ryan, what brings you to Recovery Day today?
Well, there's a bunch of treatment centers down here, and I found a solution in the rooms, and I try to support and do stuff for my recovery on a daily basis, because I know that what I do today will not keep me sober tomorrow, and so I got to continue to do that stuff. So I figured I'd come down and check it out and see some people.
Awesome. What does recovery mean for you?
For me, recovery, it's more of a lifestyle change. When I was introduced to the rooms the first time around, I was more or less a visitor. I didn't do any work. I was young. I was 20. I really wasn't ready to quit. And when I went back out for 7 years and I decided to come back, I dove into the work and my life started to change. And it continues to change on a daily basis based on what I do for my spiritual condition. And I'd say life today's pretty good, but I know and I've witnessed if I stop doing what got me sober, I can lose it, and I don't want to lose it. So.
Yeah. What's the biggest blessing you've gained from your recovery?
Well, my son's sitting right over there walking around with the puppy.
Yeah.
And new puppy of the family. I get him most of the time now, and that's pretty cool. The biggest blessing, I think, is that, and I'm okay with who I am today. And
Beautiful.
I wasn't before.
Yeah.
So.
Being comfortable in your own skin.
Yes. Very comfortable in my own skin.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, I just also want to say I've had the personal opportunity of knowing you a little bit personally in the rooms, and watching the growth and watching the man you are today is inspiring.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here, and thank you for celebrating recovery with our community.
Absolutely.
And carrying the message. And you are that example. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Is there anything else what message about recovery would you like to share?
I'll quote the big book, there's no middle of the road solution. You're either all in or you're all out. And that's been really big for me to just be all in. So I suggest if you believe you're one of us, just jump in.
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm Lexi Schmal, and I'm an addict. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm out here in Utah, so kind of far away from home, but...
Yeah, well, welcome. What's your experience with Recovery Day so far?
I have about 50 days sober. That's the longest I've had in probably about 2 or 3 years, so it's amazing. It's actually really nice. So it's cool.
Yeah. How about here at Recovery Day within the community and
this
all
is
of the
awesome.
people coming together?
Yeah, I've met so many beautiful people here. Really, it's awesome. Everybody coming together.
Yeah. Can I ask, and if I ask something that you're not comfortable answering, feel free to pass.
All right.
Okay, there's no pressure.
Okay.
Is this your first time in treatment, or?
No, this is actually my third. This is my only time I've actually stuck with it and tried and giving it my all, because I've actually realized now that it's really life or death, and it's kind of serious. I'm only 20 years old, so for me it's kind of hard picturing, not being sober, I guess, my whole life, or not even being 21, having a legal drink, but just taking it day by day and realizing that it doesn't even matter. I feel like I've had so much partying or whatever that I don't even need to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, Lexi, it's interesting that you brought that up. I've celebrated 11 years this year, but I got sober when I was 20 also.
Really?
So I absolutely relate. I think there's challenges no matter what,
Yeah.
right? No matter what age. But I think there's a unique set of challenges around that age range. Not ever being able to take a legal drink.
Right.
And I so relate to all of the justifications and all of the things in my head. But I can also relate in the sense of, even at 20 years old, I had hit a bottom.
Yeah.
That an emotional and mental and spiritual bottom that, and today I'm grateful that it didn't take another
Right.
10, 20, 30 years to hit that, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an amazing position and opportunity that you're in, and for me still, it is one day at a time.
Especially like being from Wisconsin, that's all everybody does is drink. We have a shirt that says "Drink Wisconsinably," and it's in the shape of Wisconsin. Like,
oh wow!
So and you go downtown and it's all bars. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard, but that's why I'm out here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important to also to stay connected,
Right.
with others in recovery, and to just keep that process. Yeah. Is there any message you would like to share with maybe those that don't understand addiction?
I would just say that, nobody chooses to be an addict. I think everybody, has their problems in life, and some deal with them differently than others. And I think, using drugs was a choice, but becoming addicted and having all the things that go along with it, the stigma, the losing your family, the losing your friends, money, your job, opportunities. I think it's a lot deeper than that, and that addicts have a lot of inner hate and I guess, I don't know, you hate yourself enough that it's other people doing it too, or thinking you're a bad person doesn't really help. So I guess I would just say don't judge, because getting sober, we can be the best people, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you just have to get to know someone and their story.
Yeah. And to know the full story.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else you would like to share, or you would like people to hear?
Recovery is beautiful.
Hi, my name is Sam. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. How are you doing?
Great, Sam. Thank you. What brings you to Salt Lake?
I am here for recovery to, get a better life for myself, to really, just have just the opportunity to make things right, and, just continue on the right path, and to be true to myself, and to do the right things. And
what brings you to Recovery Day?
I met and reached out to a few people in the community, and they, encouraged me to go. And I thought it would be a really wonderful idea, especially because I'm not from here. I don't really, know anyone. So it's a really nice time and, place to just meet sober people in the community and get involved.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of excitement,
Yes.
a lot of stuff going on today.
Absolutely.
So it's a great opportunity to get connected with the community.
Yes.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Sam, you and I got to take a few minutes before we started, and I got the opportunity of hearing just briefly your incredible story. What led you into recovery?
What led me into my recovery, I started partying a little bit when I was in my high school years, and then, things escalated, and pretty much the icing on the cake was my ex and I ended up taking a trip to Mexico. A deal went wrong, and he ended up, selling me to the cartel so he could get paid and, go about his way. And he watched me, get sexually assaulted, and I had to escape from the cartel just in June. And, if that doesn't wake anybody up, I really don't know what would. But at the end of the day, there's a silver lining in the story, because if that didn't happen, something else could have happened, and I couldn't have been here. And I'm so much stronger for it, and I believe that there's no such thing as coincidence. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I would really love to, one day hopefully share my story. And if I could just save one person's life from addiction, I've done my job.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible to go through such a traumatic, I don't want to sugarcoat it,
Yeah.
I can imagine such a traumatic experience.
Absolutely.
Are you open to sharing a little bit about maybe like starting from that point, I guess, to back up a little bit.
Okay.
What led you into using? Or you mentioned partying a lot and that, but like, how did you end up at that extreme of a circumstance?
Well, in a nutshell, when my parents got divorced, there was an accusation of my dad sexually assaulting me, and it turned out not to be true. So I ended up naturally attaching to men that weren't good to me and that were using and everything else. So that's kind of where it really stemmed. Mm-hmm. And I was so afraid of actually dealing with emotions and dealing with my trauma that that's what I resorted to. That's what I knew.
Yeah.
And then it's just the amount of things that just happened to me. That wasn't my first sexual assault. Where I lived in college, it happened twice in 6 weeks, and then I was at gunpoint during those situations. So, it just makes me wonder, I really think that God gives his battles to his toughest soldiers, and it was just kind of a whole one thing after the other, So that's to answer your question.
Well, thank you for being willing to share such a vulnerable story.
Oh, absolutely.
And I want to emphasize, I think there's many in recovery who have suffered trauma, and that's an important piece to emphasize, is that many times the drugs and the alcohol are actually the symptom,
right?
That are attempting to mask deep pain.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say what would be a message that you want other women who have suffered, now being in recovery and beginning to heal those experiences? What would be a message to women you want to share?
A message to them would be, to just really, you have to be positive. You have to understand that there's so much more to life if you really want it. And, ultimately you're not going to get better unless you want to, and you don't have to suffer. You don't have to be in that situation. And I think that a really important message is that, the stronger you are and the more self-love and self-respect, even if it takes, writing stuff on the mirror like I did to really learn that you're beautiful inside and out, and you can shine and you can grow and you can prosper, go for it, run with it.
I'm a user of affirmations too, so I get it. Awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sam, it's been so great having you with us.
Thank you.
Is there any last thoughts or comments? Anything else you would like to share?
I would just want to say, thank you for the opportunity, for letting me to share a little, glimpse of my story. Yeah. And I think the more that people are open about it, honest about it, speak about it, the more they free themselves.
Yeah. I would absolutely agree with that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you again.
My name is Patrick Malone, and my sobriety date is July 20th, 2017.
Awesome. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us on Recovery Soapbox today.
Certainly.
What brings you to Recovery Day?
Well, I am currently in treatment. I went into treatment on the 21st, so I've been there a little while. I just wanted a fun day out. I'm currently doing a PHP program, and so we get a little more freedom, and it's definitely nice to get out and socialize and meet new people in the recovery community.
Yeah. This is an awesome opportunity to do that. I mean, I love everybody coming together and
I certainly agree.
Celebrating together.
It's quite nice. I've seen quite a few people that I've met at different meetings.
Yeah.
So not just from my, own treatment center. So it's definitely a good place to fellowship and feel connected.
Awesome. Patrick, can I ask, have you, there's some excitement going on right now. They're building up for the speakers and stuff.
Yeah, they're waiting on me up there.
Yeah, they are. Yes. Patrick, can I ask, is this your first time in treatment?
It is.
Yeah.
Definitely my first time. I
Great.
wasn't sure what to expect at all. But when I got to treatment, I was happy the day I got there, and it just, I guess I'm maybe a strange case, but I've been happier each day that I've had since. And it wasn't necessarily because I was sober. I'd been trying to quit using since actively,
Yeah.
truly quit, since about October of last year.
Yeah.
So in that 10-month period, I had about 5 months sober.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was doing everything I thought I could, and I thought I was strong enough, and why can't I do this? And when I got into recovery, there's just a whole bunch of other aspects I never took into consideration that made it almost easy. I was kind of fighting against the current before, and this was supporting me, and it was a relief to know, my gosh, it doesn't have to be this hard, and recovery is possible, and
It is. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Can I ask what led to you seeking treatment?
Well, I'm getting older, and my liver's not doing so hot, and it was time. I never really got into any legal trouble, or I used to use drugs a lot when I was younger, but the real thing that brought me to recovery was alcohol, and I was using some benzos.
Yeah.
And it had gotten to a point where it was time to address my personal issues and really just start living life again. I had kind of isolated for years, and I hadn't talked to my family in years.
Yeah.
So,
All
it
of
was
those
time.
those things that we lose.
Yes, definitely. I actually used to live here in Salt Lake area, and I moved away about 11 years ago to Dallas,
Oh wow.
and I don't have any family out there.
Yeah.
And so
That
I
would
came
be
here, and throughout recovery, I've been trying to reestablish those connections and
Yeah.
just try to rebuild that relationship.
Yeah. I think that rebuilding of relationships and the connection is critical.
Definitely.
Absolutely. What being early in this journey for you, and being early in recovery, what do you feel has been the biggest challenge?
Well, I don't know. Like you say, I am very new to this. For me, it's just trying to live in the moment and not get too far ahead of myself.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to get to a point where I think I can handle something on my own in terms of recovery, because I know that's going to lead to a bad place.
Yeah.
And just keeping that in check, I think, has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah. How do you personally define recovery?
Well, I think that addiction is a symptom, and once you can admit and accept the underlying causes of it, and really work through it with a therapist or a psychiatrist, and work the 12 steps, then I think you can really start healing on the inside and start living again, and be happy with who you are. I think that's really the most important thing.
Hi. So I'm Lacey.
I'm Georgia.
And what brought you to Recovery Day today?
Today I am here with Fit to Recover. I am the operations officer there, but I'm also a person in recovery, so I wanted to come out and celebrate recovery with everybody else.
Yeah. Let's talk about Fit to Recover a little bit. What is Fit to Recover?
So Fit to Recover is a gym and community center for people in recovery from substance abuse. The mission is to provide a safe, supportive environment for people to connect with each other through exercise, nutrition, creative expression, and service work.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know about Fit to Recover. I just wanted you to say it. So being in recovery, I'm also a woman in recovery. What does recovery mean to you?
So if I had to sum it up in one word, I would say recovery to me means freedom. It's the freedom to choose and the freedom to do pretty much like whatever I want. When I was using, it put me in chains. I didn't have to be incarcerated to feel like I was imprisoned.
Right.
And so recovery to me means freedom to choose for myself the path that I want to go in life, to show up for my family, to show up for my friends, to be a part of society, and the ability to make that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I relate to. I actually share that all the time in my story, that like the biggest blessing that I've gotten in recovery is like I get to wake up a free woman every day. And like I was in that bondage of drugs and alcohol for so long that like just waking up and being free and not sick and not spending my whole day, trying to make myself well, and like that is probably the biggest blessing. So I agree on that. What if you had to explain to someone that was looking for help and didn't know how to get help and was out there listening to this podcast, sitting there wanting to get sober, wanting to be in recovery but didn't know how, what would you suggest to them?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I would probably suggest reaching out, there's great resources out there, like USARA that's hosting this recovery day. They have a lot of great resources, VOA Detox, places like that, that do, because when I was getting sober, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any insurance. And I didn't know that there were resources available to me. And I had such an ego about my using that I wouldn't ask anybody for help.
Yeah.
And so I would say just keep asking for help, and solutions will make themselves apparent. Like once I got willing to ask for help, there were solutions that were just presenting themselves to me. Like I had an opportunity to go to a treatment center that I could afford, and that gave me a scholarship and stuff like that. And I would also say keep trying, because I would try and I would succeed for a couple days and then I would fail, and I would think I'm never going to get this, I should just give up. And that's when things got really bad, is when I finally just gave up on myself. And sometimes it takes 100 times. But on the 101st time, if that's what it takes, it doesn't make the recovery any less amazing than if you get it on the first time.
Right. I agree. And yes, reach out. Reach out if you need help. Reach out if you don't even know what help you need. But I agree. Reaching out is, it feels so scary, and you feel like in such a dark, hopeless place that it feels like not even worth it. But there are tons and tons of resources, tons of people that are willing to help. And even if you don't know what way you want to go, what path you want to take, that's okay. There's tons and tons and tons. So whatever works for you. If you could say what has been the most rewarding part of being in recovery, what would you say that was? Other than freedom, because we already talked about that.
I would say the ability to do really hard things and walk through them, because I've walked through a lot of loss. I lost my custody of my son. My rights were terminated really early in my sobriety, and I had the power at that point to choose whether or not I was going to let that tear me down, or whether or not I was going to continue to build a life in recovery. And it's given me so much I want to say self-worth, because
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of self-esteem when I got here. The way I was behaving, like, I hated myself. And the more I do things that scare me, the more I feel like I can look the world in the eye,
Right,
and I
it's
can
empowering.
show up.
Yeah.
It's so empowering. So I would say the ability to do things that scare me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that another rewarding thing is like what you get to do for work
Yeah.
every day.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
You get to help other people in the recovery community, and like you have a very vital role in that. So thank you for being such a vital part of my world and my recovery and Fit to Recover, and just someone that I look up to and appreciate so much. So
Thank you, Lace. I
and
look
thanks
up to you
for
too.
being on Recovery Soapbox with me, and yes,
Thank you for having me.
have fun at Recovery Day.
Thanks. Yay.
My name's Todd Hansen. I've been sober since April 3rd, 2012, so over 5 years. And I'm living a successful life in recovery. It's amazing,
An amazing life in recovery.
truly.
Todd, I want to take a minute and also acknowledge I've had the personal opportunity to know you on a little bit of a personal level. I know not super close, but the man that I know and sitting in front of me today is an inspiring, powerful, amazing man
Thank you.
and friend. And I want to thank you for taking a few minutes with us.
Of course.
And we were just talking about all the amazing stuff that you're getting to do in your recovery.
Yeah, I am fortunate enough to have put in a lot of hard work and to be moving into a brand new home that I had built for myself. In a couple days. I have a vehicle with a valid driver's license that's insured.
And that trio, I just have to say, like, that trio, license, insurance, and registration, like, that's an accomplishment.
And it's
It is.
really something I haven't had since I was probably 17.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of work. It took a lot of riding the bus.
Yeah.
It took a lot of sacrifice in order to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful,
Yeah.
so grateful.
Yeah. So much to be grateful for, right?
Yeah, so much. Good friends,
Yeah.
family that never gave up on me as much as they probably
And-
wanted to.
And can we acknowledge
Yeah,
Mom,
my mom's
amazing mom,
sitting right here. She's
supporting and sharing this day with you.
Yeah, she's never given up as much as I've put her through. And we're still going through it with my brother, so it's hard to. This side of addiction's way harder than being the addict, and that's something that my addiction has taught me and my sobriety has taught me, is that watching other people that I care about experience what I went through is hard.
And thank you for bringing that up, Todd, because I can also agree and relate that being on this side of addiction and watching those you love suffer is in a lot of ways harder than
Definitely.
going through it, because when through the addiction I got to be numb through it.
Right? I didn't have to
Right?
feel anything.
I didn't have to feel any of it. I didn't have to really deal with any of it. That was the nature of the addiction. And then being on the other side of it and watching those you love, for me, my dad, as well as many other family members, it's been tough.
Yeah.
That being said, being here at an event like today, Recovery Day, we currently get to be the national hub for the National Recovery Day this year.
Yes.
Which I think is so incredible, and it just speaks to how amazing our local recovery community is, and how
It's powerful.
strong and how powerful we are.
Truly is.
And coming together.
It's amazing. There's not a better place to get sober.
Yeah. I honestly, I agree, and I feel like I'm so blessed to be part of this. right? Like
It's-
this community.
Mary Jo from USARA put that together, and she's such a huge piece of the recovery
Yeah.
in this state.
Agreed.
Such a huge voice, and she is selfless,
Yeah.
100% selfless. She will give and give and give because she knows that it's possible. She knows that people do recover and people can recover, and
Yeah.
we're so fortunate to have her as a voice.
Agreed. And she believes in us,
She does.
right? In us and in you and in recovery, and all of the paths and all of the avenues.
Yeah.
Because there is no cookie cutter fit.
No. I went through a program before she started USARA. She was at a program that I went through, and she saw me
Awesome.
as a hot mess, and I ended up leaving that program. And after I got sober, I ran into her, and she just brought me in with open arms and told me how proud of me she was, and she knew who I was. She doesn't forget who people are.
No, whether she's known you for a couple minutes or had longer
Right.
experiences.
She's
Yeah,
inspiring.
very. So Todd, can you share a little bit about what you just got to share in front of thousands of people?
Yeah, I was part of the Voices for Recovery performance, and it was based on stigmas and things that different people went through. My particular stigma is based around me being gay. I am a gay man in recovery, and that's not an easy thing to do. A lot of the gay culture is surrounded by drugs, alcohol, parties, and being somebody that's sober, you have to learn that for most people in recovery, they can't go out and go to a party and expect to come home sober. Why would you choose to be gay? Why would anybody choose to be something where they're going to be ridiculed? I don't feel that it's a choice. It's what it is, and to have grown up my entire life hiding that ultimately helped lead me to drug use. And to be able to share with thousands of people today that it's okay to be who you are. You don't have to hide who you are. It was powerful, and it was moving. You are okay to be you, no matter what anybody else says or thinks about it. Be yourself. Don't mask who you are and run from it, because it's never going to be beneficial to you as a person, to your mental health, to any of that. So I was lucky enough to be able to share that with everybody here today, and so.
And how powerful, and thank you for being willing to be that voice, and to bring awareness to stigma, and sharing your personal experience of stigma on a dual stigma at that,
Right.
not just from addiction, but being a gay man as well.
Yeah.
Because they are both very stigmatized.
Yeah.
And we absolutely need to bring awareness that we are more than the labels
Right.
that we impose and that we create on each other.
You don't have to be a label,
Yeah.
because each one of us is the same. We're all human.
Yeah.
We all have choices in life that we have to make, and some of us make the wrong choices. Some of us become addicts. Some of us become doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us become doctors and then become addicts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not fair to say that somebody who has been an addict is is less than anybody who hasn't.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And another point, if I can point out that I think you kind of touched on is the stigma and the shame that and please correct me, I don't ever want to put words in your mouth, but the stigma that was felt and the shame from growing up knowing your truth and not being able to own that is actually part of what precipitated and what fueled
it did.
then using.
It did. I found out very early that smoking pot took away the negative feelings, and then I tried harder drugs, and those took away those feelings even more.
Yeah.
So it was really easy for me to become addicted because I didn't want to feel like I was being judged for everything I did. And granted, I was going to be
And
judged
nobody
for
does,
I was
right?
going to be judged for the addiction, but at least I didn't have to feel it because I wasn't feeling anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
So, can you share what you've shared some of the challenges of being in the gay culture and being in recovery, because they are sometimes conflicting. So, what would be a message that you want to share share in your journey? What has worked for you?
Have a strong support network. Don't put yourself in dangerous positions, dangerous situations. If you're somebody who loves to dance like I do, don't go to the bar by yourself.
Yeah.
I go with a group of friends and dance, and then I go home.
Yeah.
And I make it home sober because I have a strong support system that enjoys my company and wants to see me enjoy my life.
Yeah.
Don't jump into a relationship because
I tried that one.
it typically is not going to work. Your recovery needs to be your first priority always.
Yeah.
Because without that, you lose everything that you've regained from sobriety. So
Yeah.
just protect yourself.
And I think one last question, if I can ask, is how would you personally define recovery, or what does recovery mean to you?
Abstaining from all mind-altering substances is the first and the biggest piece of it. Defining recovery, being a part of something. Like, I still go back to the treatment program I went through and give back. Because a huge part of recovery is giving back. Giving a hand up to somebody who is in the position you have been in. Showing support. So many things.
Yeah.
If you're given
question, I know.
If you're given an opportunity to tell your story, tell it.
Yeah.
Because if that story reaches one person and helps them, then you're doing recovery.
Yeah.
You are recovery at that point.
Yeah. And you, on that note, thank you for being recovery.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Recovery Soapbox. And what is your name?
Nicolette Picetto.
Hi, Nicolette. So tell me what recovery means to you.
Recovery for me in this stage I'm at right now especially means a second chance, that I get to work on relationships that I've kind of destroyed in many ways and realize that I'm worth it. I'm worth being happy. And
Totally. What has been the most rewarding part of sobriety for you?
my kids coming around.
Do you feel like your relationship with them has improved?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm finally giving them security, something that I haven't given them in years. I actually had my 15-year-old son a couple weeks ago turn around and tell me he was proud of me and that he loved me, which I never thought I'd hear.
Yeah.
So that was a big aha moment for me. I think like I'm meant to be doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
What has been would you say, the most difficult part of recovery?
I think letting go of the past and the fact of beating myself up for everything that I did, and letting go of some of that guilt and moving on, and just letting it go, which has been hard.
How have you been able to do that, or attempted to do that?
I think by
'Cause I think
talking
a
to
lot of people probably struggle with
Absolutely.
that. Like the guilt and the shame of your past
Yeah.
and who you hurt and the relationships and
being
all
able
of
to
that
move
stuff.
on from it, talking about it. I think being honest about it, and with women in recovery, and sharing these stories, and having support from other women saying it's okay, and here's ways that, turning that into a positive, and just kind of learning to move on from that.
Yeah.
So
And what brought you to Recovery Day today?
FTR has
And what
been
is FTR?
Fit to Recover. It's been, I didn't go to treatment this go around, yeah, so that was my savior. That was my treatment and my community, and where I get the majority of my strength to stay sober is
Yeah.
from that community.
Which community is probably a key part in, at least for me, community has been a key part in recovery.
Absolutely.
I need other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the gym's played a huge part. The women that I've met there and the support group that I've gotten has just been
Yeah.
amazing, and something that keeps me sober. Absolutely.
Good. Well, enjoy your day at Recovery
Thank
Day,
you.
and thank you for taking time on Recovery Soapbox
Yeah.
to chat with us.
Thanks, Lacey.
Okay, thanks.
I'm Kristen. I'm 22 years old, and I'm from Tooele, Utah. I have a little over 6 months sober. Right now I'm in a treatment. I've been in there for 6 months, and so that's just a
Awesome.
little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us. How are you enjoying Recovery Day?
You know what? I love it. I feel like it's awesome for a whole bunch of us to get together and have sober fun. You know what I mean? You meet amazing people in recovery, and for me, I need sober friends, and this is a good place to get it. So,
Agreed. What has been one of the things that that led to you seeking recovery?
Well, so I came from a really abusive childhood. My dad is in a gang and sold lots of drugs. So grew up around that, and then my mom was a heavy alcoholic. She's 7 years sober now, and when my stepdad had passed away, that's a long story, so I'll just cut it short, I was 13 years old, and I found out he passed away, and so I went out and started using meth, and then age of 14, I started heroin and opiates, and I was okay through 14 to 16, wasn't using every day, and then as soon as I hit 17, I had a house fire and I had lost everything.
Wow.
So when I hit 17 and then 18, I started being an IV user and met this horrible guy, and he just took me down a road that I don't remember 2 years of my life. So, this last time I decided to get sober, I was in jail and I was ready to go to prison. I have 2 years over my head, and I, walked in the courtroom and I seen my mom sitting there, and my mom's been my biggest support. My dad's not in my life right now, but so I decided then and there, I'm like, you know what, like I've been hearing the age 25, my PO's like, you're not gonna live past 25, and I just kept hearing 25, and you know what, I decided when I walked in there, I said, all right, Mom, I'll go to treatment, and I was in there 2 weeks after, and so I've been in there since, and I've had my ups and downs. It's hard because I'm one of the youngest there, and it's hard for me to connect, but I'm getting better, and I'm getting more mature, and I'm hearing stories, and I'm realizing I don't want to be 40 or 50 in treatment. I want a long, happy life. And
I get that you've been through a lot in your young age. There's a lot of things personally that I can relate to with that. And for me, recovery it's not biased, right? And it's possible at any age. I think each age group kind of has a unique set of challenges.
right.
But I feel like, just like you said, when you can look for the similarities, right, and you can look at peers and what you can relate to, and find that connection and that support is critical.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. So, coming from, if I can ask, coming from the abusive background or childhood, like you said, and being exposed to things that I can imagine were fairly traumatic, how in recovery are you beginning to heal those parts?
So,
Or if I can even ask, or is that an important part of your recovery?
Of
What does that
course.
look like for you?
So for me, I was living in the past. I've tried treatment for the last 4 years, in and out of jail. It's been really hard to deal with all those things that I've been avoiding for so long. And now that I'm in treatment, I have peers that are willing to sit down and listen to my story and not judge me and explain to them what I've been through. And there's 90% of the house that I'm in, they can relate because they've either done it or been through it, like in some way or another. And so I feel like having the support that I do in my treatment center and all the family that I've made there, I feel like I'm able to deal with those things and not use. And I feel this is probably the happiest I've ever been my whole life. And
It's amazing.
yeah, it's awesome.
What's coming up right now?
I'm just happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for this.
Thank you.
I just
And
just want younger people to know, like, I'm still young and I want to change and I want to be a different person. And I was scared for the longest time to finally do this. But now that I'm doing it, I don't regret anything that I've done.
Would you agree that it can now be a strength for you,
Of course.
even through all of that?
Yeah, I want to speak when I have enough sobriety to go and speak in front of young kids. And, I want to work out of an adolescent's house or, help with young teenage kids. Like, that's just, it hits home to me. So, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm going to make my story an inspiration. So.
Yeah. And I want to thank you. You already have, right here, right now.
Thank you.
And I also want to emphasize what I see. I see you already are. I'm a complete stranger and just got the opportunity of meeting you, and you've touched my heart. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I also can sense you've touched those listening, and those that will see this. And you've touched my heart because there's a lot of pieces that I can personally relate to as well. Coming from what a lot of people would call a broken home, right? A lot of addiction, a lot of mental health stuff. And I grew up and became just the product of my environment. And I felt that was all I was ever going to be. and finding that sense of hope and finding that path to change that course and to be something different is powerful. And you can absolutely be that tool or that hope for other young women, and you already are. Yeah, you may be young, but you've got plenty of life experiences, and age is just a number. So don't let that limit what you have to offer.
Thank you.
So, if to maybe wrap things up a little bit,
Yeah.
is there a message or what would you like people who don't understand addiction to know? What message would you like to put out there?
So my grandma told me something when I was in jail years ago, and she said, you may be on the wrong road, but you can always make a U-turn and go on the right. And that has stuck with me. So
Awesome.
I'm honored to be here, and thank you.
Thank you again for listening and tuning in to Recovery Soapbox, brought to you by Brighton Recovery Center. It's been an amazing day with all of our people here at the National Recovery Rally and Recovery Day at Gallivan Plaza here in Salt Lake City, Utah. If you've liked what you've heard, please subscribe to us on Stitcher, iTunes, and always look us up on recoverysoapbox.com.